Start her up. All right, we'll let some people funnel in here. We got a few attendees joining. I'll give a quick little layout of today's agenda. This is the second Sharp Money Office Hours. We're trying to run this weekly, Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The agenda today is first, we'll talk about our topic of the day, which is going to be about VIG. We're going to dive into a little bit about de-VIGging and some fair value stuff, but mostly just what VIG is. We'll go over that together. It's me and Math wins on the office hours today. Sigma and Jay are unfortunately busy, so we're not going to get to them. Then, of course, we're going to go over some sharp money graphs. So it'll be some good feedback between me and Math wins about some graphs. I think he selected four of them that the members sent in, so that'll be good to review. Typically, they're probably going to be ones that have some good talking points. So I'm excited to get to those. The next thing on the list is we are launching a promo for the beginning of the second half of baseball. This is going to be a big promo. I'm just going to tease it right now. We'll tell you what it is later. And we're also going to run a giveaway on Pickett right after the stream. So we'll get into that as well. And then we're just going to wrap it up with your guys' questions. So if you guys have questions while we're talking, if they're on topic, we'll probably answer them right away. If they're more general based questions, a little off topic, then we'll get to them at the end of the stream. So that being said, what have you been up to this All-Star weekend, Jeff? I know it's been you had WNBA going on, so you've probably been originating some stuff, but I basically have taken a few days off just to hang out and not bet.
Yeah, I've been doing WNBA. Today's the first day that we didn't have that going on. Um, Today's been just kind of a lot of getting caught up with, I posted a whole closing line value report for our first half of the WNBA season. So really just kind of getting caught up on back end stuff. I haven't bet much. I bet a little MLS that the bot spit out today, but otherwise not on a ton today and until baseball gets back rolling tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's a nice little refresh. You don't want to get burnt out, so it's good to take a few days off and just feel fresh. And I'm eager to go. I'm eager to wake up early and play some bets tomorrow for MLB, so it's good. All right, so we're going to talk about the VIG, and each of these office hours, we're picking a topic and we're just going to discuss it together. Most of these topics are probably going to be pretty simple to start, some simple concepts, but VIG, it's also called the vigorish. You can call it the house edge. You can call it the tax. You can call it, there's a lot of different things to call it. The juice. There's a million ways to call it, but essentially, it is the tax that the sports books put on the sports betting line, so they can pretty much guarantee an outcome. That's why you see lines set at -110, -110, where no matter what, the house will win in the long term because they have that VIG baked in. If they didn't have any VIG baked on -110 lines, it would simply be +100 on each, and the book would simply make no money. I also like to kind of view it as like a roulette table where basically the VIG on the roulette table is that the green zero. Basically, it's the number that puts it's basically the tax because everything pays 35 to 1. There's only 35 numbers on the board, and they add the extra zero, and that's kind of the vig on roulette. The one thing with like roulette is it's 100% math based. There's no way to mathematically beat roulette and a lot of other gambling activities. But when it comes to sports, the outcomes aren't there's no true outcomes. There's no way of determining the real outcome of an event, and news happens all the time. So you can actually beat the VIG. But that's a quick little understanding of what VIG is and kind of why it's there. Jeff, do you want to talk about the different, are you going to add to that or talk about the different types of VIG that you see in different markets when you're betting?
Yeah, so this is pretty much just how sports books make money. They put out this tax on both sides of the line, and no matter which side, if they take $100 bet on both sides, they make the VIG is their profit every time. And as we look at the VIG, the important thing when we are EV betting and top down betting is that we have to actually like when we get expected value, we have to outperform what the VIG is. So like on a main line, as we're finding true value, most main lines are going to be tighter lines and they're going to have less VIG baked in. So theoretically, you have to beat the listed price in the market by less because the fair value is going to be closer to the listed price where in player props, the VIG is much larger. So we're going to have to get a larger discrepancy from the listed price. But um, how it's different in the markets. For main markets, you're going to see a lot tighter lines. So I actually have tomorrow's Cubs Red Sox money line pulled up. Pinnacle's posted an opener at minus 125 plus 113. So if you were to take out the tax on both sides, and there's tools out there to do this, but essentially, if you were to remove the tax, you would find out that there's a 2.5% VIG. And really, when we're doing that, I'm not going to go through the tools on how to. Maybe we can do that in another episode. But essentially, what you're doing is you're finding the win percentage on both sides, and it will add up to over 100%. That whatever over 100% it is, that's the VIG that the sports book has booked in. So you'll see on mainline spreads totals that VIG typically will be anywhere from like 2 to 4% at your sharp books especially will be 3% or less. But you'll see your kind of softer books that we talk about, your Hard Rocks, your Canby books. Those books actually typically have a larger VIG, and it's essentially the lazy way of getting around actually having sharp lines. They bake in more VIG so that they don't have to be sharper lines because they're getting a bigger tax on every bet. For your player props, you're going to see a lot larger VIG. So, like WNBA, which we're shipping out right now in VIP, you'll see VIGs of up to like 8 or 9% on these player props. So it's like figuring out where that fair value lies in between that VIG is also tough. So this is why we say that the closing line is essential for main lines and it's important for player props, but you can actually, if you took the fair value directly in the middle of two sides of a bet, you could probably actually lose to that middle fair value and still be profitable in player props because sports books don't necessarily put their true fair value in the middle of the difference in the two sides. It could lean one way, it could lean the other way. So that's why it's like the fair value middle price in player props, it's not why we hold that to 100% certainty, is because that VIG's so big it could be leaning one way or another.
Yeah, it's a good point. There's no way to determine which like where all the vig actually is, whether it's on the favorite or the underdog. That's why there are like 4 or 5 different DVIG methods. And at Sharp Money, we use 2 different DVIG methods, and then we use the worst case scenario because it's really just a guessing game where this VIG is. There is the multiplicative, the additive, there's the power method, the shin method, all different methods, which is really, if you just use them all and use worst case scenario, it's the best way to do it because you're just assuming that the VIG is on your side of the line, and worst case scenario would just be the play with the least amount of value. So we do that with the additive and multiplicative method there. Other thing too is like you said, like WNBA props have like 8% VIG baked in, and they have those high VIGs because they're not confident in that line, just like Mathwins was saying, is that they bake in a ton of VIG on like very niche markets. Like if you're gonna be betting like Olympic ping pong or something, like you're gonna see a minus 120, minus 120, because the books have no idea what the fair or what the real price of that line should be. So it's a one good way to kind of also identify where books are kind of more confident in their lines. That's also why sharp books have, VIGs of 2%, where retail books have VIGs of, 5% on main lines. It's just because the sharp books are more confident setting their lines. So uh, that's about it. Do you have anything else to add on VIG there? I think we covered most of it.
No, I think that's good for just a start. One thing I will say is if anybody, any of our members are interested in a certain topic, I know somebody reached out to me and asked about resistance, essentially faking in the market. So maybe we'll throw that one in there soon. But if there's any other topics that you guys are interested in hearing, just shoot me a DM in Discord. I'm kind of the keeper of the content essentially for these office hours. So if you shoot it to me, it'll get in our doc and we'll definitely cover it at some point. Same thing, we're about to break down some graphs next. If you have any graphs, the 4 graphs that we're going to take a look at tonight are directly from members, which I think is great because then we can actually talk down and you can hear our thoughts on graphs that you're not sure if you should be taking or not. So just send all that content to me. That would be great. And we can get a little bit of what you guys want in here too. not necessarily just what we think you guys are interested in.
Yeah, I don't think too many people want to hear us talk about VIG for much longer. It's kind of a dry topic.
Exactly.
All right, let's do something fun though. I love talking about the sharp money graphs here. If you want to try sharing your screen and pulling those up. And you've had all week to stare at these things and study. So I'm seeing these for the first time. So it'll be a gut instinct here.
All right. So here's one we're going to start you with, and I'll let you give your thoughts first on this one, and we'll just kind of ping pong back and forth. I'll take the second one. But here we have a team total. We got the Washington Nationals over 3.5 at 125. This graph was sent at 11 a.m. Odds up to 2,000 here. Penny is on a slight rise, and this is the closing dime special because we have Circa and Bookmaker opening far below where Penny's at. So, Robbie, let's hear what you got to, or hear what your thoughts are on a graph like this.
Yeah, so we talked about this a little bit in the last stream. You really don't want to see Pinnacle moving up against you, but my logic before was if I see Circa and Bookmaker open up at a lower price, they're aware where Pinnacle is and where Pinnacle is moving. Now, this market for Pinnacle is a $2,000 Pinnacle limit, and it's a team total, so this is probably about as high as it goes. Um, since Circa opened, Pinnacle has still moved upwards, and Bookmaker, has just opened, which is making this play good value. But I mean, we're talking about Pinnacle is sitting here at what is their actual odds? Plus 122, and this play is getting flagged at plus 125 on ESPN Bet. So there's not much of a gap there. I want to see a bigger gap between a sharp book and the book I'm taking it on. Now, if Pinnacle was kind of trending more level and they were closer, I would go for it. But I mean, I think, maybe a week ago, I would have taken this play. But talking through the graphs together last time, I think I'm laying off this one just because even after Circa opened up, Pinnacle is still moving upwards. So it seems like the other side getting action. And I'm only getting 3 extra cents to Pinnacle. I mean, I don't like that at all. I'm sure you probably have similar thoughts here.
Yeah, so a lot of what you said is exactly true. We're seeing Pinnacle kind of move 10 cents in the wrong direction, which is never good. And it's really still early in the day on this one. So like we talk about resistance or lines being fake. Team totals could get faked, but the limits typically aren't high enough for it to really like it'll still happen. But I'm almost interested in this one to see the next move. Like
You said this is
what's
11 a.m. ping for a 1 o'clock game though.
yeah,
So it is
yeah.
close to game time.
Oh, 1 o'clock game. You're right. So
Yeah.
yeah, we are getting close. My fault. I was thinking a
And
night
like,
game.
yeah, 2K limits for a team total is probably the
It's
max.
pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious to see what the next move is here from Pinnacle. Like if Pinnacle's next move is a nice 10-cent drop to where Circa and Bookmaker open, then it's probably a play that I'm interested in. But this is a wait and see for me. I'm not necessarily willing to jump on this one right away.
Yeah. And last bet that we talked about on last stream, same type of situation. And I bet it even with Circle and Bookmaker opening lower and Pinnacle continued to move upwards. So it was a bad bet. That did cash, but it did not have any closing line value. So you live and you learn.
Yeah, well, that's why I think it's so good about this too, is because, while you and I are both very successful top-down bettors, our strategies are not really different, but they are different. Like there's plays that you'll take that I'm like, nah, I'm not, I just don't feel comfortable in that. And then there's plays that I'll take that you are calling me crazy for. So, but that's one instance where you took this play last week and
No, I'm
maybe
probably
it was
not.
kind of it was good
Yeah.
for to talk through because we're all sharpening our just eyes here in terms of these graphs.
Yeah, I mean
All
the
right.
big thing is if you place a bet like this that it's questionable, like track that bet throughout the day before it closes and see what happened, and then you can kind of, you might have to place a couple of these to really see what's going on. But I mean, they're like what 90% of the or 95% of the plays that I take, I know they're going to move the right direction. But if I place one that's kind of questionable, I always like to keep an eye on it. But I think
All
it
right, we
is
got to
crazy how different how like we view charts differently though. Like more we disagree more than you would think.
yeah, we got a quick question from Kells here. Says if Pinnacle's at plus 110, would you 120. Would you take that, or is that too small of a movement? So I'm guessing they're saying if Pinnacle dropped 2 or 3 cents here
Down.
to 120, I'm probably looking for more than that. I'd probably want to see like Pinnacle move to at least plus 110, kind of get in that same vicinity of the other sharps. If I see Pinnacle drop to 110, maybe even 112, but I see that distinct move from Pinnacle, I would probably, that's where I would be okay taking this bet.
Yeah, this play is very interesting though because like Circa and Bookmaker are 20 cents lower than Pinnacle. Like that's a big gap. Like I don't know. It's definitely questionable. If it starts dropping at all towards the other books, I'd definitely consider it. I don't think it'd be a bad play if it dropped, you know, a few more cents, maybe not 2 cents, but like if it dropped, 5 cents, I think I would take a stab at it.
Ready for the next one?
Yep.
Here's what we got. We got game total here under 7.5 in the Royals Mets game. Opened at call it 152. It's about 8 a.m. here. So this was a overnighter. We're in the next morning. Game time is 1 o'clock. So we're about, what is that, 5 hours before game time. In my mind, in a play like this, you've essentially missed the value in my mind. Like we saw a jump or a drop from 152 all the way down to 137. That happened around midnight, 1 a.m. And then it's been pretty stagnant since. We've seen, since it dropped all the way down to 137, we've seen two more limit increases with essentially no movement. So that's telling me like this is another wait and see for me. There's a very good chance that this one, once it gets to let's say $6,000, $7,000 limits, this one takes another dive. But I think you're playing a coin flip here on if it's going to go back up or go back or go down more on the next limit raise.
Yeah, I think this is one of those plays where it's like we always talk about over betting, or not over betting, but betting more when you really got some market movement behind you. And this is just one of those like regular EV plays where, like you said, half the time this might move against you, half the time might move in your favor. But we do have a 2% edge right now. It's at plus 150 odds. So if that's kind of your range of whether you play a bet or not, I tell a lot of new EV bettors to not take anything over plus 150. So you're talking about a small edge at a plus 150 odds. It's not the best play in the world. It's definitely a play I would be on, and just seeing that it's on MGM, which is I've crushed MGM this year. It's a really soft book. I'm still taking this play. I would just take it for you might just want to play it for quarter Kelly or something like that, but I don't think it's a bad play. The market has not moved in the other direction at all, besides like 2 cents. So there's really no worry about too much action coming on the other side. So this is a play I like. I don't love it. Like you said, you're looking at like from 2 a.m. to 8. So the last 6 hours, 7 hours, this line has not moved at all. But you don't see too much action that early in the morning anyway, but it's a decent play in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess I'm just looking for more certainty in the direction.
Like
Like
big
like we said,
moves.
well, not even like big moves, but like moves at a limit race. Like it's just concerning to me that we've seen the limits go from 2250 to 3000 and nothing really happened. And then we saw it go again from 3000 to 3750 and nothing happened again. So like to
Yeah.
me, like I just want the certainty that we're on the right side and it's either not going to move anymore or it's going to continue in our favor. And this one to me is just like I think there's probably and maybe it's not 50-50, maybe it's 55-45 or 60-40, but there's still a pretty good chance in my mind that this one may reverse on us.
Yeah. Well, another good way of looking at it too is, and you kind of pointed this out earlier, is like the best. It would have looked like a great play if you were looking at this. Well, if you're betting overnights, that's kind of questionable too. But if you saw it at 11 p.m., the limit jumped up, and you saw it go from plus 143 down to 137. That's a 6 cent move with a limit increase. Like that's not bad. If you got in right there, but you can also view it like this is the way I typically view it too, is people were buying it at plus 143. They priced it down a little bit. If sharp bettors are hitting it at 143 and I can get 150, I like it. Like I said, it's not a play that's steaming crazy in one direction, but overall it's moved in this direction from plus 150 on a sharp book, and I would be surprised if it went back up to plus 150. So overall, I'd say it's a decent play, but nothing to slam.
Yeah. Lucky Lobster says, always funny in a bad way when you take a play early on in the day and then the bot starts pinging the other side on you later. Yeah, it's never a good feeling that happens. It's going to happen to everybody eventually.
Yeah, when you play him early, like I know like Sigma said he only plays bets from like 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. You're taking risk where there's a lot of value in the morning, but you also have the chance of it moving against you pretty hard. If you're betting an hour or two before game time, with the market moving with you, like it's not going to reverse on you, like but right before game time. So definitely taking on some risk, and it's going to happen. Don't sweat having a few negative EV bets, in your portfolio every day. It's not a big deal.
You see this next comment from Jonathan. So,
Yeah,
so Jonathan, think I think I know what you're asking, but so Pinnacle does operate from a web interface that you can bet on. It doesn't have to be like in person. It's just not available in the States. So, I think you're asking if people can bet not in person, but so like your big betting groups, your big syndicate groups can get down on Pinnacle, and they do get down on Pinnacle because it's the best place for them to get down. But they can do it not like I, actually I don't even know if Pinnacle has. I'm sure they have to have a physical casino somewhere,
yeah,
but
I'm sure
or
they
a
do,
physical, but
but
I
yeah,
don't know
they're
where that
online.
is.
They're just out of the US. I think they're what Canadian based, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So like you would
So
just
so
need
yeah,
to US sharps would just have friends that live in Canada. That's really what it is.
Yeah. So essentially, to answer the second part of your question is yes, they can bet right when the limits increase. There's typically around a range of the time of the day where limits go up. So they're always looking for that limit increase to kind of hit the bet on the side that they want. And sometimes some of the sharpest groups who really believe in their numbers will wait till right before game time to not only to one mask their closing line value, but two to get the most down.
Yeah, I think that answered the question there.
All right, here's our next one. We have a
This looks like a
this is a
WNBA.
WNBA. Yep, this is a WNBA total over 166 and a half at minus 112. I believe this is a night game because our limits are at 2,000 and our limits usually get to 3,000 in the WNBA. 2 p.m. here, limits have been at 2,000 for just about the whole day since looks like maybe 7:30 a.m. What do you think about this one, Dime?
I'm not playing this one. I really do have a hard stop at I'm taking 3K limits only, or if it's at $2,000 limits, I need to see one clear direction, like no head fakes like this. So I'm laying off of it just for that fact. If it was like a 5% EV play, I might touch it, but it's only a 1.97% EV play. And this market's getting bounced around both ways. I just don't love it. Yeah, there's nothing here. This is just a sketchy chart for me that I would just avoid because I have no idea where this is going. What about you?
So, my man Lucky Lobster here, this is one that if you took on that first limit increase where it moved from minus 121 to minus 138, I guarantee this one pinged the other side as it rose from minus 138 all the way back up to minus 109. This is just like your classic WNBA chart. Like we see this almost every day, whether it's totals, whether it's spreads. Lines are just moving all over the place from that opening at 6 a.m. till middle of the afternoon, late afternoon. Yeah, this is one that I'm just not gonna play. There's clearly distinct movement in both directions, and somebody is moving that line 30 cents in both directions. So there's just not enough clear market movement here for me to be on this one.
Yeah, that's basically what happened early in the year is exactly what you said. Like for me, it was like this 5 a.m. or 8 a.m. You see the limit increase and odds drop, and you're like, boom, this is a perfect play. And then all of a sudden it spikes up like 30 cents against you. That's why I stopped betting anything lower than $3,000 limits on WNBA. Mainly because $3,000 limits are typically the last limits you're gonna see. So there's no reason to head fake at the last limit. So Yeah, that's just definitely just staying off of this one because I learned my lesson earlier in the year not to mess with WNBA early in the day.
All right, we good on this one? I got one more for you.
Yeah, good. Actually,
All right,
one more
here.
thing on that one. Can you go back?
Yep, I can
So
try.
that might be a lot to ask.
There we go.
All right. So I was just going to ask you more of a question because you're originating totals and spreads. So like when you have an opinion on this play based on your model. So like are you looking at this differently because you have an opinion here? Like would you even if there was EV at the moment, if it disagreed with your model, you're probably laying off of it anyway, correct?
So here's the thing that I've found most interesting originating WNBA versus NBA. So like in NBA, if I were to see, so like let's say not necessarily that first drop, but the second one coming back up from, so like let's say I like the under here. That move, the steam from minus 138 to minus 109 there. Like if I liked the under in this, would signal me that the under is a great play and I would fire my under. But for WNBA, I'm almost waiting for the market to move against me so I can get the number I want. Where I don't know, like NBA is just there's a lot more money and it's just a more liquid market. Lines are just sharper and you don't necessarily see this ping pong back and forth in the NBA. In WNBA, like let's say a game opens at minus 3.5 and I make the game minus 6. I might wait and see if the market will move to 2.5 or 1.5 and move against me and take a play with the market moving against me because it moves like this all the time. So it's just WNBA is just a very interesting, like you can't, or especially early in the day. Late in the day, it tends to be the market movement is more true, but early in the day, you can't really take a market moving against you as a sign that your number's wrong.
That's exactly what I thought you would say because like not that I've the only time I dabbled into like originating anything was running back props, and I always waited for market confirmation to like if I had a player under and their yardage moved from 60 to 55 yards, and I would be like, okay, I'm placing this bet because I have market confirmation. But with the WNBA, like I said, I would probably view it the same way you would. It's like I might as well just wait for this bet to reverse on me so I can get a better price, and then hopefully it tanks back the other way and locks in some real CLV. So it's yeah, WNBA is just an unpredictable market, and I think not like as an originator standpoint, you gotta play it differently than any other market too.
Yeah, for sure. Here's an interesting question from Billy, and I think it's a really good one because you know us over here at Sharp Money have gone back and forth on what's the best way to measure CLV using Pickett. So Billy's question is, when analyzing your bets after they settle, what's your perception of Pickett's no vig fair odds calculation? I currently measure the best available CLV and Pickett's no vig fair odds calculation, and there's some reservations trusting the vig removal Pickett does on its app. So first off, Billy, um, if I had my best way to measure closing line value, it would not be any of the ways that Pickett offers. So that's my first one. The best way you can do it on Pickett is the no vig fair odds calculation. They do take the vig out correctly. However, the books that they include in that are not ones that I care about in terms of where they close. So like in my mind, especially so main lines, I just went back and did my CLV recap from the first half of WNBA. And what I did is I took the closing line of Pinnacle, Bet Online, and Circa, and I removed the VIG from all three of those lines. And I took the average of the no VIG fair values from those three, and that's what I compared my plays to. So I took the three sharpest books in the world, essentially, not in the world, but the sharpest three books that we use, and I removed the VIG. And if I can beat that number, I'm going to be in a really, really good spot measuring my closing line value. if Pickett offered an option where they could just you could select the books that you wanted to find the no vig fair odds on, that would be the best for main lines. For props, it's really hard because the limits don't get high and the vig is so big. If you are beating the best price offered in the market, you're probably in a pretty good spot personally, because you can't pick which one to use for like which markets you're analyzing. I just leave mine on the no vig in general. And if you're beating the no vig of the market, you're probably in a pretty good spot. Um, but ideally, I think you'd want to just take the sharp books and take their no vig price.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't have that where you could just select Pinnacle or a combination of books because for best available, you can select which books you use, correct?
For best available, I think so. I
Yeah, I'm
believe you
pretty sure you
can.
can use like best
Yes.
available compared to Circa Pinnacle Bookmaker. I think that's what I use. But you want to make sure you're beating the best available like 75+% of the time.
Yeah.
It just tells you that you're on good plays if you're beating the best number. But beating the best number doesn't guarantee profits. Beating the no vig of the best number is what really guarantees you profit. So if you're seeing really good numbers on, you're beating the best available a lot, but you're still not making a profit, then you're probably beating it, but you're not beating it by enough. But yeah, Pickett just needs to add the no vig fair odds and just be able to select what book you want to use. Because I think they
Um,
include the book that you actually bet into as well in the DVIG process, which basically just sets you up already like -2 or 3% EV. That's why I also say if you're using the no vig fair odds on Pickett, if you're even beating the no vig closing line by 50%, you're probably crushing it.
so BK here says, if the best available, if something closes a book you can't access, what's the point? My counter argument would be here, BK, is your whole goal is to find the fair value. Like, what is the actual fair value outcome here? Just because I can't bet on Pinnacle doesn't mean I just dismiss the information Pinnacle can give to me. Like, if you take, I know we've got some members out in Florida. Florida, I think their only legal book that's not an exchange is Hard Rock. Like, if they were just comparing to Hard Rock's numbers, Hard Rock is not going to give you a very accurate fair value on a DVIG price because Hard Rock is one of those soft books that instead of hiring an actual team to set good prices and using price discovery, they just bake in more VIG. So I think, my counter argument would be here is you want to use the books that give you the best information to compare to, not necessarily just the ones you have access to.
Yeah, I mean it's no different than using Pinnacle. Pinnacle. Like we don't bet on Pinnacle, we just use it as a reference, right?
Yeah. All right. We got one more graph to look at here, and then keep shooting your questions out here because this is great. You guys throw us on tangents sometimes, but it's stuff that
Right.
you guys want to hear and stuff that we love talking about. So here's our last one. We got a run line here for the MLB. St. Louis Cardinals -1.5. We saw Pinnacle open at 175, get bet all the way up to +200, and then get bet all the way back down to 178. Circa opened at 172, got bet all the way up to 195, and then bet all the way back down to 165. Thoughts here, Robbie, on this chart?
Yeah, so we don't know what time I'm assuming this game's about to start because 10K limits is quite a bit. But
Yeah, this has got to be a 1 o'clock game
yeah,
or a 2 o'clock
so
game, something like that.
I'm definitely taking this play. The overall, definitely don't like to see the market moving against you at all. Like the fact that it got priced all the way up to +200 and then pummeled down isn't the best. I want to see the whole trend going left to bottom right. That's like a slam dunk play for me. To see this go up and then back down, I don't love it, but the most recent move and the most recent information I have is the best information I have. So the fact that everything started dropping at 10K limits is a good indicator to me that late money is coming in on the side. Maybe there was an injury, maybe sharps are just waiting to get their money down. So not like a crazy good play here, but I do like it because the most recent information means the most to me. What's your take here?
Yeah, so this goes back to something Sigma said last week. And like some of the best groups who originate MLB, they wait till the max limits or they wait till right before game time to bet. One, because it's the largest limits, but one, to try and kind of mask a little bit of closing line. Here, they're not going to mask much closing line because they absolutely shattered the market once it got bet up to 10K. But the fact that Pinnacle, after the limits went to 10K, it only moved one direction, tells me that this is a move that matters. So I would take this play only because we see single direction movement once we get max limits here. And we don't have access, or we don't have the circa limits posted on plays. But if I had to guess, I would guess that Circa moved to their max limits around 11 a.m. ish here when we start to see that one tank as well. So we see Circa almost do the same exact thing. Circa's limits don't raise at the exact same time as pennies, but if I had to bet, I would bet that they move to their max limits right when you see that first big downtrend.
One other view that, I haven't even had this thought until you were kind of just talking about this, but like, let's just say you are an originator and you make this like fair value of this plus 160, right? And you wake up in the morning, 1 a.m., and, there's value at plus 175. But you and your team wait to see which way the market starts going. So if this market opened plus 175 and it started dropping towards your number, you probably just bet it so that you can lock in your value. But if they waited until, 10 a.m. and they see the market is going the opposite direction, they have this at plus 160 as their fair value, they're going to let that thing ride until, it's like you said, 10K limits before they hit it. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's how a lot of sharps handle it is, they have the number, they have value at smaller limits, but they don't bet it because if the market moves the wrong way, then they're going to be able to get down, well, a lot more money and at a much better price. So it's something I never thought about, but I think that's probably why you see markets reverse so quick at such high prices.
Yeah, so this bet to me screams a syndicate group that was setting up that last raise. Like you see the limits increase from 3,000 to 4,000, slight jump up. So like they hit that on one side on one of their accounts to move that line. You see the limits go from 4 to 5,000. You see another jump up. They just hit it with another one of their accounts. You see the limits go from 5 to 700, 7,500 probably,
Yeah.
and you see it jump again. And then you see all of those little jumps combined into one massive jump the other way at 10K. So like that to me is a syndicate group setting this one up so they can just absolutely hammer crush it at 10K limits.
Yeah.
Because like you think about it, like let's say a syndicate group has 100 accounts that they bet on. Like these syndicate groups are just insane, like what they actually do. They have 100, they used 15 accounts to bet it all the way up to 10K, and then they hit it with 50 accounts to just absolutely hammered at 10K. Like obviously I'm just throwing these numbers out there for us to talk about, but that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, the only argument I would make against this is I don't know exactly how it works and how much money it takes to move a line, but my theory was always like, hey, if you're over the, like 5 grand, like you're probably not seeing too much, like purposely bet opposite side to get a line to move. Because I think I just think that moving a 5K line would be hard, but maybe it's not, and I really don't know. So you definitely be right where, a syndicate could just bet the opposite side of the line all day long and then hammer it down. So that's definitely an option. Like, and we will never obviously know what is happening here. We're just trying to put together the best logic we can. So I like just hearing
Right.
different vantage points of it.
Well, I'm always curious, like you think about these big syndicate groups, like as soon as their accounts get flagged as sharp,
Yeah,
right? Like the sharp books pay more attention to them and take information from them. So maybe like you take an account that you've been betting at the
sharp.
$10,000 limits, right? Where the sharp books are like, we really trust this information. And then you start playing the smaller limits the opposite way on this account that a sharp book believes that you know what the heck you're doing. And then you take some of your new accounts at 10,000 and slam it down. There's like, it's such a chess game between the bookmakers at Circa and at Bookmaker and at Pinnacle against these syndicate groups. It's like It's just such a
It's a mind
mind
game.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, that's a great like explanation of it. And I think for people watching too, it's like we always talk about money is moving lines, but Pinnacle, the sharp books will not move a line if some square comes in that they have profiled as a square and placed 25 grand on one side of the line because they know his action sucks. But like you said, if these syndicates have hundreds of counts, they probably have, all right, these 25 accounts, we are square betting into them. We're going to put tons of square bets until we really need to hit something crazy hard at some high limits. And then they also have the sharp accounts where they're just hammering sharp plays all day long. And then they can use, they know they're profiled as a sharp, and they can use that in their favor as well. So yeah, it's a bunch of mind games, and that's
Well, I was listening to one podcast and I can't even remember who it was. I don't know if it was Be Better Betters by Spanky or if it was another one, but they were interviewing an old bookmaker. And he was like, yeah, we had these accounts identified of super sharp bettors, but they were people who didn't bet for a living. So they were making like $100 bets, but they just like to model and originate numbers on their own time, like for fun. So they would move lines on like these $100 bets because they knew the account was extremely sharp and it was just some dude who just liked to originate numbers and bet. So it's like it's not always massive amounts of money. Like these bookmakers identify sharp accounts just based on closing lines and line movement. And if they're ahead of the curve in terms of a number and where it's going to close, it's crazy. It's crazy stuff.
yeah. Og's raised his hand, so we could bring him on to talk. I did. I'm gonna add him on here. I'm gonna keep going on what you talked because I did hear that podcast as well. And I'm pretty sure it was just like some college kid that like had some market figured out completely, but he only had like $1,000 to his name, so he's like hitting these lines for like $50 a piece and just like killing it. But I don't know if Og's meant to raise his hand or not, but if you want to talk, you can unmute yourself or ask a question. Otherwise, you're just gonna sit in here, I guess. All right. Well, he stayed muted, so maybe he doesn't have it. Maybe that was an accident.
Book fake.
Yeah.
BKS, when we talk about syndicates, these are many, many individuals who all agree in bet at the same time. So there's actually like betting teams that are out there who there's like people who get accounts that they can bet on. There's originators. There's like all these different members in a betting
Kiosk
team.
runners,
Yeah,
hmm,
kiosk runners. And
accountants.
essentially the 10-second explanation is you have a group of originators who originate lines. When they agree on a fair value and there's value in the market, the kind of the runners or uh there's people who organize ways to get down. So the people who organize ways to get down, they're literally their only job is to find ways to get money down. Once the origination team has value, they ship the plays to the runners, and it's the runners' job to get the money down, whether it's kiosks, whether it's mobile accounts, like whatever the way is. But like way more complex BK than you would ever imagine is happening every single day, and these groups are moving millions of dollars a day.
Mhm. Here,
Yo, hey, Dimes and Matt.
uh,
I I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to unmute on my phone here.
uh,
Uh, a little past the point here, but I actually was the one that sent in this play that's still being shared on the screen here, and I thought it was also worth mentioning that like I was I took this play. I took it because well a lot of things that we talked about already, but it's also MLB. If I see this in like NBA, and obviously we were talking WNBA before, and the type of movement we see in those markets, in those main lines. Like I mean, correct me if you guys disagree, but we don't see that same crazy bouncing back and forth over the course of the day. And obviously, we're late in the day already on this play. So I really trust that last 10K move.
I think that's halfway to the point that I was almost making, where it's like these limits are so much higher than WNBA. So like a 5K limit, that was so early in the day, is like you don't see that much weird action on 5K limits. So it's like, and that's MLB just 'cause it's such a big market. It's like you just don't, I don't expect fakes happening on MLB that much. And WNBA, I just trust nothing I see on those graphs. So yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Or in between WNBA and MLB, I think NBA is kind of in the middle there where I would get, I kept getting chewed up on totals. Like not even super early in the morning, but like, midday, you see something you like, and yeah, there it is, pinging the other way in 30 minutes.
Yeah, the
But I just don't see it the same way happening in MLB. So I really trust MLB trends when I see them, when they're lined up with good limit increases.
I agree. It's
Yeah, I
like
would
so.
say
I was gonna say the
for
one thing too with like the NBA, it's everything is dependent on who's like because everyone's questionable every single day in the NBA, and
That's
one
facts.
player has so much impact on the game. Like if Giannis is ruled out, I mean you're talking about multiple points to the spread, multiple points to the total. You don't know what that line's gonna do. If a cleanup hitter is ruled out in baseball, it's barely gonna change the line. So it's like it's the NBA can move on you quick during those like the lineup announcements.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
I was gonna
sure.
say the only thing I'd add is NBA. Like if we were within an hour, hour and a half of game time, and I saw this dip in NBA at a 10K limit, I'd probably still hit it. But you're right, like midday, it's just yeah, it's just a different ball game. It's
You're just
that's
guessing
just
who is playing and not playing early in the day is really what's happening, I think.
right. And it's yeah, I mean that's essentially what it is. Like if there's no injury concerns, um, you're probably safer, and that's where originating it. Like I'm looking at that stuff every single day. So like I'll see a ping in the middle of the day and it may look like a decent graph, but knowing that half the team or half a roster is questionable and may or may not play, you just yeah, it's there are big differences in like NBA to MLB to WNBA, exactly like you're speaking to.
Yeah, it's a good
100%.
point there.
All right, fellas, I'm gonna hop off. I just wanted to make that point. Keep crushing it.
Yeah, thanks for joining,
Later,
man.
man. A couple questions here, Robbie. Let's get through these. What about when we see Profit X or Novig get replenished with like one to two and a half thousand dollars multiple times? Should we take those EV plays? I think
So
market is huge here, Bob. I think if it's a main line where we're seeing distinct movement, like we've talked about, like it's a home run play for us, I wouldn't mind it. Most of the time, you're going to see these like replenishes on player props. Those are where I would be very lenient if there's thousands of dollars in a market on one side.
yeah, I'm the same way. Like if I see over $1,000 on the other side of the or available to bet, I typically will not place it unless it's a market that is like completely steaming against that number. And you said like you're seeing this is good observation on your part, but like these props and lines at like 1K uh, liquidity available and they're just replenishing over and over. And that's like a very strong indicator that it's a sharp group trying to stay under the radar because, like we are planning on doing too, we're trying to build a bot that identifies these large wagers placed on the exchanges. And I think these sharp groups are starting to get aware of that and they're trying to disguise themselves by placing, $1,000 bets instead of $10,000 bets and just replenishing that 1,000. So hopefully we can find a way to identify that going forward. But that, yeah, I would be a little skeptical on it. You just really want to make sure the market is moving towards your number and not theirs if you ever placed something like that.
Let's see. AJ says, if it a bet ping for Novig and the line disappeared by the time we get to the app, is it reasonable to repost the bet at the ping line, hoping to match? Yeah, absolutely. If you can get something filled on Novig at a price on a good bet, I mean, there's no harm in posting it. The worst thing that happens is it doesn't get filled. I wouldn't like, let's say it's a middle of the day ping. I don't know if I'd let it sit out there all day long. I think if it's a middle of the day ping, depending on the market and how hard it's steaming, I'd probably pull it after a half hour or so, just so you don't get reversed on. But yeah, if you can get stuff matched on Novig and ProfitX and the other exchanges, why not?
Yeah, I would definitely give it a shot too. Yeah, like you said, you don't want to leave that number out there just in case it reverses on you because pretty much if your play has value, it'll probably not get filled. And then if the market reverses on you and you lose all your value, it's going to get filled instantly. So you're going to get some real like selective filling on your bets if you leave them out for too long. But yeah, I would put it out there and keep an eye on it, and then probably just remove it after a little while.
And then we got Lucky Lobster again. I typically look for at least a 10-cent drop from the opening odds. So I would lay off this since penny is flat from 1 a.m. This must have been one of our.
This is the
Oh,
chart
he's
you're on
talking about
right
the one
now.
right now. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
at where it
flat from 1
opened.
a.m. to 1 p.m. Good strategy, bad strategy. Um, is he saying he would just lay off this play in general?
Because like if you look at the whole market of Pinnacle, it's moved from left to right. If you just
Oh yeah, so 10 cents from the open, not necessarily playing a drop at the open, but just the typical odds. Um, so I don't know if I have a black and white answer for you. Typically I like to see so ideally, yes, I want to see the closing odds under the opening odds and just one movement of direction. That would be like grade A, best possible play. In this situation, because of where the movement happened at the limits that it happened, I have no problem with the closing odds being above the opening odds because of the other information the graph has given me.
yeah, I agree
Does that
with
make sense,
that.
Robbie?
Yeah, and I like I said, my favorite players are ones that open and then they're moving down all day long. But this is just one where it's like I just trust the number so much at 10K limits that I wouldn't be afraid to play it, even though it's sitting at the exact number that it opened at. Maybe they just opened a real good number, you know?
That could be it too.
All right. Is that it for questions?
I think
Yeah.
so.
All right, cool. We're running an hour long here. This is good stuff for sure. So, all right,
Well,
we'll
thanks again,
wrap it up.
everybody, for popping in
Oh, the
with
promo.
questions. Yeah. Like I said earlier, shoot me any type of content that you want, graphs. These were all graphs sent in by members. I actually think it's better if we break down your graphs because it answers your questions directly. So shoot those to me in DMs for next week. Unfortunately, I will not be on next week, but I can still get the information to these guys. I leave Saturday morning for a week in northern Michigan. So I will be off the grid. Still planning on shipping WNBA, so our VIP members don't worry. But that's about all the bets that I'm gonna be doing in the next week or so.
All right, cool. Before we sign off, I'm gonna shout out the promo we're running. So we're basically doing, almost like a Sharp Money relaunch because, we had a lot of issues with our data and we basically had to build a product back from scratch and there's a lot of new updates. Unfortunately, we did lose a lot of members during that downswing, so we're running a good promo to get this is for only new and churned members. But we're doing the $1 promo again for your first month will be $1 and then obviously it'll be 50 after that. But hopefully we're just bringing people back in that maybe saw the product when it was not at its peak and hopefully they'll like it and stay around for the long run. But for members that are currently here, we're running a little giveaway on Picket. If you just react to the post that I'm about to send out right when I get off the stream, we're going to give away 3 months of the EV bot. So you can win that if you're already a member. But yeah, we're running a little promo and giveaway on Picket, so definitely check that one out. And if you haven't checked out the Bet Sharp Money YouTube channel, I just posted the top 10 questions that I see in Discord and answered them, on that video, which is it's doing really well. I think a lot of people like that video, so getting good feedback there. But all right, that's
Yeah,
gonna wrap it up.
I know we've got some free members that have been hanging out that are on the fence about getting in. So I know Bankroll Batman was in here. Better hop on that $1 promo. I know T-Mac who was on here. Better hop on that $1 promo. So get in while you can for $1. Um, our loyal members, we love you guys, but unfortunately, this is only for our new members and people who have left that we hopefully can get back.
Exactly. All right, finally we got some baseball tomorrow, so we'll be back in the swings of things. I'm excited to bet some volume tomorrow.
Heck yeah, we're back to normal days.
All right, see ya.